I should have been asleep. It was 2:47 in the morning when my phone lit up on the nightstand. I'd been lying there for hours, staring at the ceiling, thinking about nothing and everything at once. The kind of insomnia that doesn't hurt, just empties you out. My apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional car passing on the street below. The notification sound was soft, almost apologetic. I turned my head and watched the screen glow in the darkness, a message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. I should have ignored it. But something about lying awake at 3 in the morning makes you reach for anything that breaks the monotony. I picked up the phone. The message was simple. Tomorrow at 4:18 p.m., wear the blue jacket, not the gray one. They'll be watching for gray. No context, no name, just that. I read it twice, then checked the number. It wasn't saved in my contacts. The area code was local, but I didn't recognize it. I typed back, wrong number. The response came immediately. I know, but you still need to see this. My thumb hovered over the screen. Something cold moved through my chest. I typed again. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, someone who made the same mistake you're about to make. I sat up in bed. The room felt smaller suddenly. I turned on the lamp, and the warm light did nothing to shake the chill crawling up my spine. I stared at the words. They didn't make sense, but they didn't feel random either. They felt aimed, precise. I put the phone face down on the nightstand and lay back down. I didn't sleep. Morning came gray and slow. I went through my routine like I always did. Shower, coffee, staring at my laptop while pretending to work from home. I'm a data analyst for an insurance company. My job is to look at numbers that don't mean anything and find patterns that probably don't exist. It pays well enough. It keeps me alone enough. My apartment is small. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, a living room with a couch I bought from a thrift store 3 years ago. The walls are white, still white, because I never got around to painting them. There are no pictures hanging, no decorations, just functional furniture and the persistent sense that I'm living in a space meant for someone else. Someone who cooks real meals, someone who feels like they belong somewhere. I'm 32 years old, and I can't remember the last time someone knocked on my door who wasn't delivering food. I didn't think about the message until I opened my closet to get dressed. Hanging there, just like every other day, were 2 jackets, one blue, one gray. I wore the gray one almost every day. It was practical, didn't show stains. The blue one I'd bought on impulse a year ago and barely touched. Too bright, too noticeable. I stood there looking at them. The message had said 4:18 p.m. It was barely noon. I reached for the gray jacket, then stopped. My hand hung in the air between them. The blue fabric seemed brighter in the dim closet light, almost aggressive in its visibility. I'd bought it during a weekend when I'd convinced myself I was going to change, start going out more, meet people, be the kind of person who wore bright colors and smiled at strangers. That weekend ended, and the jacket had stayed in the closet. I grabbed the gray one and left the apartment. The day moved slowly. I went to the coffee shop on the corner that I always went to, Marco's. It had been there for 15 years, long before the neighborhood changed, before the rents went up, and the old stores closed. Marco himself still worked the counter most days, a heavy-set man in his 60s who nodded at me when I came in, but never asked my name. I ordered the same thing, medium coffee, black, 1 sugar. I sat in the same spot by the window. No one looked at me. No one ever did. Outside, the city moved at its usual pace, people rushing to appointments they'd forget, conversations that would dissolve into nothing. Everyone so busy, so focused, so completely unaware that they were being watched by someone who couldn't sleep, someone who got messages from numbers that shouldn't exist. But I kept checking my phone. At 3:45 p.m., another message arrived. "You're still wearing gray." My heart stopped. I looked up, scanning the coffee shop. A couple at a table near the counter, leaning close, whispering. An older man reading a newspaper, his coffee going cold beside him. A woman with headphones, typing on her laptop, her expression intense. No one was looking at me. I stood up quickly enough that my chair scraped against the floor. The woman with the headphones glanced up, annoyed, then went back to her screen. I stepped outside. The street was busy, but not crowded. People walked past, eyes on their phones, their destinations. I turned in a slow circle, searching for anyone watching, anyone pausing, anyone with their phone pointed in my direction. Nothing. The buildings rose around me, windows stacked on windows. Anyone could be behind any of them. Cameras perched on corners, above doorways, inside stores. The entire city was watching itself, recording itself, and I'd never felt it until now. I typed, "How do you know what I'm wearing?" The reply was instant. "Same way I know you're standing outside Marco's Coffee. The same way I know you didn't sleep last night. The same way I know you're about to make the wrong choice." I felt my skin prickle. I walked quickly back to my apartment, phone clutched in my hand. My mind was racing. Cameras. There were cameras everywhere now. Traffic lights, storefronts, doorbells. Someone could be watching from anywhere. But why? I wasn't important. I didn't have enemies. I barely had friends. The last person I called was a customer service representative 2 weeks ago because my internet was down. Before that, my landlord 3 months ago about a leak in the bathroom. Before that, I couldn't remember. Another message. "Go home. Change into the blue jacket. Go to Bennett Park at 4:18 p.m. Sit on the third bench from the east entrance. Wait." I stopped walking. "And if I don't?" I typed. The response took longer this time. Long enough that I started walking again, my pace faster now. Long enough that I convinced myself they'd stopped, that this was just some elaborate prank. Then my phone buzzed. "Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what you missed, just like I do." I stood in my apartment, staring at the blue jacket. It hung there, bright and impossible, and I hated it, hated what it represented, the person I'd wanted to be, the person I'd failed to become. I changed into it anyway. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear, maybe the sense that something in my small, quiet life had finally cracked open, and I needed to see what was underneath. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe I was just so tired of the gray walls and the gray jacket and the gray predictability of every single day that even a message from a stranger felt like an invitation to something real. Bennett Park was 6 blocks from my apartment. I'd walked past it 1,000 times, but never gone in. It was small, just a patch of grass and trees with a few benches and a rusted playground that no one used anymore. At 4:15, I stood at the east entrance looking at the benches. Third from the entrance. I walked over and sat down. The park was nearly empty. A jogger passed by, earbuds in, face red with effort. A man walked his dog on the far side of the grass, throwing a ball that the dog ignored. No one looked at me. The bench was cold through my jeans, and the blue jacket felt too thin for the temperature. I pulled it tighter around myself and waited. At exactly 4:18, my phone vibrated. "Look to your left." I turned my head. Sitting on the bench beside mine was a woman, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a green coat that looked expensive. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring straight ahead, her hands folded in her lap, her posture rigid. "Is that you?" I typed. "No," came the reply, "but watch her." I watched. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. The woman sat perfectly still. Her phone was in her coat pocket, and I could see the edge of it, the screen dark. She breathed slowly, deliberately, like she was meditating or trying not to cry. Then her phone rang. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her entire body changed. Her shoulders dropped, Her hand trembled. She answered it, her voice low and clipped. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see her expression change. Shock, then fear, then something that looked like her soul leaving her body. She stood abruptly and walked away, almost running, the phone still pressed to her ear. Another message appeared on my screen. She just found out her brother died. Car accident on Route 9, 20 minutes ago. She'll spend the next 3 years thinking she could have stopped it. She can't, but she'll try. I stood up, my legs unsteady. How do you know that? I typed, my hands shaking. Because I've seen this day before. Not hers, yours. I picked up the envelope and closed the door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. The glue had dried and cracked, and the envelope tore slightly as I worked my finger under the flap. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, maybe 5 years old, sitting on a porch swing I didn't remember. My mother was beside me, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at the camera. The sun was bright in the photo, washing everything in summer light. My mother looked younger than I remembered, happier. I turned the photograph over. On the back, in her handwriting, I never stopped looking for you. My mother had died 3 years ago, cancer, pancreatic, fast and brutal. I hadn't spoken to her in the 5 years before that. We'd fought. I don't even remember what about. Something stupid. Something I thought mattered at the time. She'd called me dozens of times that first year, left voicemails I never listened to, sent letters I never opened, and I told myself I was justified, that she'd been wrong, that she'd said things that couldn't be taken back. But the truth was simpler and worse than that. I was just too proud to apologize, too stubborn to admit I was wrong, too convinced that there would always be time later. And then there wasn't. My phone buzzed. Now do you understand? I collapsed onto the couch, the photograph clutched in my hand. My vision blurred with tears I'd been holding back for 3 years. She tried to reach you, the message continued, for years. Letters you never opened, calls you never answered. She died thinking you hated her. No, I typed, tears blurring my vision. I didn't hate her. I know, but she didn't. Another message appeared. The envelope was supposed to be delivered 3 years ago, the day after she died. It was lost, misrouted. It's been sitting in a postal facility in another state until yesterday. Someone found it during an audit. Tomorrow, it gets sent back, destroyed. This was your last chance to know she forgave you. I couldn't breathe. I looked at the photograph again, at my mother's face, the way she was looking at me in the picture, not at the camera, the way her smile was just for me. I'd forgotten that she looked at me like that. Who are you? I typed. The reply took a long time, long enough that I stood up and paced the apartment, long enough that I almost threw my phone across the room just to make it stop. Then it buzzed. I told you, I'm you 3 years from now. The messages I got, they were from a version of me further ahead, and the version that sent them got messages from even further. It keeps going. We keep going, trying to fix the moments we missed, trying to save the parts of ourselves we lost. It never works, but we keep trying. I looked at the photograph, my mother's face, my own, a moment I didn't remember, preserved forever in a way I couldn't touch. Another message. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this doesn't make sense, that time doesn't work this way, that I can't be you because you're you right now and I'm somewhere else. You're right, it doesn't make sense, but it's still happening. Maybe it's quantum, maybe it's something else. Maybe every choice we make splits us into different versions, and some of those versions find ways to reach back. Or maybe I'm just insane, and you will be too in 3 years, sitting where I'm sitting, typing these same messages. Does it matter? I sat down on the floor, my back against the couch. The next message said, "You got the photograph. That's all that matters. You know now that she didn't hate you, that she was looking for you, that she wanted to tell you it was okay." I never got that. My version of this day, I ignored the knock. I was angry. I thought it was all a trick. And when I finally went looking, the envelope was gone, destroyed, lost forever. I've spent 3 years wondering what was in it, wondering what she wanted to say. And now I know, because I made sure you got it, because I reached back and changed just one thing, just one. But I can't change what happened to me. I can only watch you get what I lost. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you from this," the message continued. "I'm sorry I couldn't save myself, but at least now you know. She loved you. She never stopped. And tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll try to move on. You'll put the photograph somewhere safe. You'll think about calling someone, anyone, just to have a voice that isn't yours. You won't. And the days will pass, and they'll feel the same as they always did. And 3 years from now, you'll be sitting in the dark at 2:47 in the morning, and you'll send these same messages to the version of you that's still sleeping, still reaching for a phone, still thinking there's time." The final message appeared. "There's never enough time, but there's always another chance to tell someone they mattered. I can't tell her, but you can remember that she tried. That has to be enough." I didn't sleep that night either. I sat on the floor with the photograph in my hands, staring at it until the sun came up. I memorized every detail, the pattern of my mother's dress, the shade of the porch swing, the way my child self was leaning into her, completely trusting, completely loved. I tried to remember that day, tried to pull it from somewhere in my mind, but it was gone. Just gone. All I had was this photograph, this frozen moment that proved I'd once been happy in a way I'd completely forgotten. When morning came, I called in sick to work. I spent the day searching through old boxes I'd shoved into the back of my closet, things I'd inherited when my mother died, but never looked through. Photo albums, letters, birthday cards I'd sent her when I was young, covered in crayon drawings and misspelled words. She'd kept it all. Every terrible drawing, every awkward school photo, every Mother's Day card with its generic printed sentiment and my scrawled signature. She'd kept it all, and I'd kept nothing of hers. I found more photographs. Me at 6, missing my front teeth. Me at 10, holding a baseball trophy I'd won and immediately forgotten about. Me at 15, sullen and angry at having my picture taken. My mother was in most of them, always smiling, always looking at me with that same expression from the porch swing. I'd been so loved, and I'd thrown it away over an argument I couldn't even remember. My phone stayed silent all day. No more messages, no more instructions, just the normal digital noise of a regular life. But in the evening, as the sun set, I opened my messages and typed to the unknown number, "Thank you." I didn't expect a response, but it came. "Don't thank me, just remember." "Remember what?" I typed. "That someone loved you enough to never give up, even when you did."
3 years passed. I kept the photograph on my nightstand. I looked at it every morning and every night. I didn't frame it, didn't want glass between me and that moment, just the photograph, slightly worn now from handling, the edges soft. I thought about my mother every day, the conversations we didn't have, the apologies that came too late, the love that was always there but that I'd been too stubborn to accept. I tried to change. I really did. I went to therapy for a while, talked about regret and loss and the weight of things left unsaid. The therapist was kind, and I made progress, but the sessions eventually stopped. Not because I was better, but because I couldn't afford to keep going, and because talking about it didn't change what had happened. I tried to reconnect with people, sent messages to old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Most didn't respond. The ones who did were polite but distant. Too much time had passed. We were strangers who'd once known each other. I volunteered at a community center for a few months, helped serve meals to people who had even less than I did. It felt good, meaningful, but I stopped going when my work schedule changed and I never went back. I was still alone, still living in the same apartment with the white walls, still wearing the gray jacket most days. But I had the photograph, and I had the knowledge that I'd been loved, and I had the growing, terrible certainty that I knew what was coming. It was a Tuesday night, 3 years and 2 months after I'd received the first message, when I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about nothing and everything at once. The kind of insomnia that doesn't hurt, just empties you out. At 2:47 in the morning, I got out of bed. I picked up my phone and opened a new message to a number I'd saved 3 years ago, unknown sender. I'd never deleted it, never blocked it, just kept it there, waiting. I started typing. Tomorrow at 4:18 p.m., wear the blue jacket, not the gray one. They'll be watching for gray. My hands were steady. I knew what to say because I'd received these exact words. I knew what came next because I'd lived it. I sent the message. Then I waited. After a moment, I saw the red indicator appear. The other me, 3 years in the past, had opened it, was reading it right now, was feeling the same confusion and fear I'd felt. I kept typing. I know, but you still need to see this. Another message from him. Who is this? I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Someone who made the same mistake you're about to make. I spent the next 18 hours sending messages, guiding him through the day I remembered, telling him where to go, what to watch, building toward the moment that mattered. And at 9:15 p.m., I told him to answer the door. I told him about the photograph. I told him what my mother had written. I told him everything I'd learned too late. And when it was over, when I'd sent the last message, I sat in the dark and cried. Because I'd given him what I never had. I'd given him proof that he was loved, but I couldn't go back and give it to myself. I could only watch him receive what I'd lost and hope it was enough. Hope he'd do better than I did. Hope he'd actually change. But I knew he wouldn't, because I hadn't. 3 more years passed. I'm 38 now, still in the same apartment, still alone. The photograph is more worn. My mother's face is starting to fade at the edges where I touch it most often. I tried again to change. Went on a few dates through apps where you swipe on strangers and hope for connection. They were fine, pleasant, forgettable. None of them led anywhere. I started writing letters to my mother. Not to send, obviously, just to write. Things I should have said, apologies, memories, questions I wish I'd asked. I keep them in a box under my bed. There are 47 of them now. And tonight, 3 years and 2 months after I sent those messages back, I can't sleep. I know what's coming. At 2:47 in the morning, I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to pick up my phone and open a new message to a number I've already saved, the number I'll receive the message from in 3 years. Because somewhere, somewhen, another version of me is sleeping right now, and in a few hours, he'll get a message that will change everything and nothing. And he'll go through what I went through. He'll get the photograph. He'll spend 3 years trying to change. He'll fail, and then he'll send the same messages back. It's a loop. It has to be. It's the only thing that makes sense. Or maybe it's not a loop. Maybe it's a line of dominoes, each one knocking into the next, each one trying desperately to save the one before, and none of us succeeding. I don't know which is worse. I'm looking at the photograph now, my mother's face, my own, that porch swing I still can't remember.
On the back, her handwriting, "I never stopped looking for you." And I realize with a clarity that makes my chest ache that I've spent 6 years looking for her too, looking for that moment, looking for the person I was before I ruined everything, looking for a way back to a time when I was loved and didn't know how fragile that was. But I can't go back. All I can do is reach forward, send the messages, make sure the next version of me gets what I got, make sure he knows what I know, that we were loved, that we threw it away, that we can't fix it, but that we have to try anyway. Because what else is there?
It's 2:46 now. 1 minute left. I'm holding my phone and I've already typed the first message. Tomorrow at 4:18 p.m., wear the blue jacket, not the gray one. They'll be watching for gray. My thumb hovers over the send button, and I think about stopping, about breaking the chain, about letting the next version of me sleep through the night, ignorant and alone, never knowing about the photograph, never learning what our mother wanted to say. Maybe that would be kinder. Maybe ignorance is better than this, better than knowing you were loved and lost it, better than carrying the weight of that knowledge through years of unchanging days. But then I look at the photograph again, and I know I can't let him miss this, can't let him spend his whole life never knowing, even if it doesn't change anything, even if he ends up exactly where I am. At least he'll know. The clock changes to 2:47. I press send, and somewhere 3 years in the past, a phone lights up in the darkness, and another version of me reaches for it, and the whole thing begins again. I put my phone down and pick up the photograph. I hold it close, this worn piece of paper that's the only proof I have that I mattered to someone, that I was someone's whole world. And I whisper to it, to her, to the version of me that's still sleeping. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never stopped looking for you either. But she can't hear me. She never could. None of us can hear each other. We can only send our messages back and hope they arrive, hope they matter, hope that somewhere, in some version of this story, one of us finally gets it right. But we won't. We never do, because we're all the same person, making the same mistakes, reaching back to the same irretrievable moment. And we'll keep reaching forever, because there's nothing else left to do.